Hello, hello, hello. Just gonna try and make sure my settings are working again, because it's been a bit since I streamed last. I also tried to add some overlays, so chat will be visible on screen. You'll see there that my chat does indeed pop up. Huh. Just make sure the delays on it are correct and that it will go away. It appears that it is indeed working. Let me go change one last setting to make sure my volume's correct. It's just going to be a lot of this early on before my settings are rounded enough that I'm able to work with it. Okay. Okay, it's looking like it's alright. I'll just make one last check. Okay, that should be everything. Okay, so yeah, the title of the stream is making the rounds, because that's just kind of what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be a lot of wrapping up what I've been trying to get done, and moving on like that. A lot of pretty solid options here. The whip obviously would be one of the better starts. It's very high damage and otherwise, but I think this may be what I go with. I do very much want to get this done. I also really want some more skulls, but mostly it's getting more jade coins to try and get that fixed and dealt with. Yeah. Let's get to it. I most likely won't be able to afford it, but I'm going to go for an early attributes here. Oh, sorry about that. The path here is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to double check my settings real quick. Something changed, so I'm just trying to get it fixed. And there we are. Okay, yeah, so I'm just going to stick this route and try and get as much as I can. If this is a good enough relic, I can go here and there, but it'll just ultimately depend on that. As said, what exactly relic I get, and how much gold I get to be able to afford any relics or otherwise. It's been a couple of days since I played this game, so I will have to get back into the rhythm of it. School and life has just been kind of getting the better of me, so I'm gonna try and deal with it as best I can. And getting back to this will be a nice way to enjoy myself for a bit. As you see here with a basic weapon, literally an upgrade. Well, it does get the bonus damage from the shield, but it's basically a basic weapon. It is a pretty solid struggle to kill things as quickly as I'd like. So the shield has a chance to spawn lightning, which is the reason why I chose this. The shield, its lightning chance, and the fact that these throwing knives can trigger the main lightning effect. And so ultimately that's mainly what I'm going to be aiming to do, is trigger lightning as much as possible. As you see here, that's one of the attacks you can do with the daggers, or the throwing knives I guess you should call them. It's just kind of spin around and hit as many enemies around you as possible, as well as throw them in the cardinal directions. And it's usually the remaining cardinal directions, but there are times where you're able to maneuver it so that you hit just one enemy with them, and it ends up creating a very, very powerful situation. Somehow managed to get hit there. Wasn't paying good enough attention, more so than anything else. That's ultimately just going to be what cost me a lot of my hits here, is not paying good enough attention to what I'm doing while trying to get back into the swing of things. Can't really afford anything. I'm just going to offer blood here to try and get a good start, though would have been a fair choice to just take the gold here, since I'm going to have to be offering Curse in the following room for any relic that I so end up with. I'm going to grab some water real quick. I forgot my water bottle. Oh, while I was gone, I think I heard someone follow. Yep, Bacon Sacrifice. Thank you very much for the follow. I do appreciate it. Hope you enjoy your time here, however much you decide to spend. Have my water, have something to drink, hopefully for the rest of this run, and yeah, I'll move on with it. The hope is to trigger as much either poison or lightning on these enemies and then chain off of it. Lightning being the preferable one, as I have a solid chance of triggering it through multiple items, but poison is also very effective, as it just adds extra damage that I wouldn't otherwise be getting. There's likely more items back there. I am going to try and make somewhat decent pace here. Try and get in as many runs as possible tonight, because I have a limited schedule. Tonight at least. And because of that, I want to make use of as much of it as I can. School, life, and all that have just been a bit much to handle, because we're getting into towards finals times. All of my professors are just deciding to add new assignments, add new tests, and so forth. Just the normal stuff, but doesn't make it any less stressful. That room was a lot cleaner than previous, thankfully. Not just really all that great. Same for this. I have no consistent healing, so I'll reroll one more and see if I can get anything solid. This would be solid. Additional to healing effects would be nice. I think I am going to hit once more, just because if I want to spend anything for this, I don't think I want to spend it on something triggering so infrequently. And we don't get anything great. I am going to give 700 gold for this perception here, because it should give me enough additional gold over the time that I have it that it's worthwhile. So because of that, I am going to go for an additional relic choice here, just to try and see if I get anything with it, and move on. Visions of Madness is an unfortunate one. Taking damage causes hallucinations. It's one of those that I just really don't like, because it will often just make situations worse than they were. If you're taking damage at a point, then you probably don't want to be even more discombobulated during that time. And that's exactly what this curse does, is it makes the situation just all the more worse whenever you do end up taking a hit. I'm gonna go down this path just to kind of see what's here. As you saw there with the charged attack, one of the attacks did try and go to this upper enemy, but it was just out of range, so I could not hit it. Some of those rocks I believe you can just break through with... that's a difficult choice actually. But yeah, some of those rocks you can just break through with any kind of melee weapon, but I just prefer using the hammer because it for sure will break them. I haven't committed too much to these knives yet. They are very solid damage, but lightning and a guaranteed form of lightning is, in my mind, more solid, so I am going to take them. I really do want to have a good knife run, because the knife builds you can make are very, very powerful. It's just very hard to get such a start. That was a bad hit there. I dodged preemptively and ran out of stamina because of that, which cost me a hit and my extra dex, as well as showing off Visions of Madness here and its obnoxious on-screen effect. Now that I've swapped over to a more lightning-heavy build, I am wishing that I had taken the lightning damage, but unfortunately I did not. Upcoming rooms, gold room, weapon upgrade, and moving forward, or different weapon options. I think I will probably have to go for the different weapon options. I'm going to do one more reroll here. This gives perception, which would be 40% gold find. Additional right now. Taking these like non-entity sort of relics early on is fine because you can usually deal with it later on, but it's not a good precedent to start. My apologies there, someone came into the room. For some reason they're still awake at this time, though I guess I'm not one to judge. As you saw there, the auto parry saved me a hit. I'm not kind of doing wrong. Ultimately, a lot of why I like this shield is the auto parries, just giving me so much freedom to mess up, I guess is how you would call it. Very bad hit there. Was not paying good attention to the screen. Trying to deal with the sibling that walked into the room. But yeah. Taking this many bad hits early on is not the most pleasant thing, because it ends up making so that your situation gets worse and worse as you go, and so forth. As you see there, any amount of gold we're getting is massively increased by the different bonuses we've gotten, and should make it so that we're able to afford a lot more shrine offerings than previous. Hello there, Bacon Scarce. Sorry, Bacon Sacrifice. My bad mispronouncing your name, or misreading I should say. My literacy skills are not on point, it appears. One of the things I've definitely been considering is playing some of the other games I enjoy on stream, which would be most likely just other roguelikes, because a lot of the other games I play, I do not play on PC, per se. Mostly it's just roguelikes and a couple of others on PC, but I honestly just kind of want to know what people are open to and so forth with these things. It's literally the same thing. I could play other roguelike style games, like Monster Train is one of them that I enjoy. I'm not great at it. Not anywhere near good at it, I'd say, but I do enjoy it. And then there's obviously other genres of games that I can play, like the Borderlands series. It's played by a lot of people. It's a very enjoyable game. I mean, I'm just going to take that relic just because I kind of want a relic at this point. Getting a weapon upgrade now would be nice. It's always good to get weapon upgrades, but my weapons don't have anything really keeping me to them. So it would be fine to swap them out at this point. I did actually just prevent the enemy from dying there, but it ended up dying to the vine instead. I had hit it backwards just a little bit, and that knocked it out of range of the vine initially. Or the root, I guess I would call them. As you see here, lightning just being one of the most powerful effects introduced to this game. If I have a guaranteed lightning effect as I do now, hitting an enemy with the end of a train, or end of a chain of hits, can allow me to do combos like that, where I just hit so many enemies at once. It's extremely powerful. It's very unfortunate both of them decided to do that at once and ended up making me kind of just try and overcommit to something and get no benefit from it and took a hit on basically the last enemies in the room. Very, very unfortunate. All I mean, this is just a great shield, and I'm able to afford it with gold. I lose the auto parry, but I gain parrying deals lightning as well as health restore and a very solid amount of damage. It also has some scaling with Constitution, though Constitution not off to a hot start as of yet, which is a bit unfortunate. The vines unfortunately did not hit the Serpentist there, so I did not get an easy kill, but it should be fine. As you see, Serpentist being just a fairly easy enemy to deal with. Gonna knock into the vines actually, just a little bit of extra BM there. For the NPC that cares literally not at all about my BM. That was a very generous range on the vermin there. I do not appreciate that, but it's tolerable, I guess. I'm also starting to notice this shield appears to actually trigger lightning by itself as well, just whenever I hit with it. Managed to wrap up that room fairly effectively. Unfortunately, I am going to be taking these losses here by way of just kind of whiffing on things. I am not going to replace my current weapons, just because of the fact that they are going to be my best chance at anything right now, and it didn't offer me anything outright great there. I'm also going to try and save these last couple of Divine Favors, because the farther you go into the temple, the better rarity items you will start getting. The Hag boss is, I think as I've mentioned, one of my least favorite bosses, though it does drop my favorite item if I manage to kill her while she is on fire, which I will hopefully be able to do. As I've learned her strategies, it's mostly come to just taking your distance, getting rid of the skulls when you can, just kind of dealing with that, because these attacks are very deadly if you're unprepared against them, but if you're at a distance you're able to much better deal with them, though this teleport here can lead to some problems, as she gets very close to you at times with very little chance to respond. The damage I'm putting out right now is not up to what I would like, but I can indeed pull out a win with it. It'll just take quite a while. The shield is very effective at cleaning up a couple of skulls as I'm rushing. I'm going to do what I just probably said I shouldn't do, which is get in on her while she's doing her skull attacks. As you saw there, it caused me to have to back up as quickly as I could and put myself up with a risky dodge. This one is easy to dodge, you just go to the middle and dodge the middle skull because it's just a single skull. You would think you could have a decent chance at fighting her whenever she does that middle teleport, but she will just automatically do some of her other attack patterns from that position. So you want to just take that as an opportunity to better position yourself away from her and just kind of deal with it from there. With a lightning build, I have actually a lot of room to I guess, develop the build, I can go after some fire effect, because as you see, the last hit of the lightning triggers a burn effect on the enemy, as well as the fact that obviously there's basic lightning upgrades, there's critical upgrades. The lightning end will often be a critical. As you saw there, I got too close to her when she teleported back and did not backpedal effectively enough, so I got a bad hit in there. And now I'm made to deal with that on-screen effect from Visions of Madness. My goal here is to get her low enough that when I do kill her, she is on fire, because that will give me a chance. I believe even after you've achieved the weapon at least once, it will give me a chance to get her drop, which is what I want. It's an extremely, extremely powerful heavy weapon that can basically one you runs as long as you're smart. I am actually going to do that there, so that I only hit with the third part of the combo, and just end up killing her and lighting her on fire at the same time. And I do indeed get the drop, so that confirms that you are able to get the drop again, which is very nice to know. I'm going to hold this for now, before I take it for the Constitution. Sacrificial Machina is basically a win, in my book, as well as the bonus damage. For the Serpent Temple, it's a bit different than otherwise, just because of the fact that you're much more easily able to lose on the boss, because the boss actually summons enemies, but with this staff, I believe I have a solid chance of beating it. 6% on environment kills are 3 dex. I am just going to take 3 dex. I think I am going to keep the shield just because of what it offers me, as well as just it offers healing of some kind. Poison damage. 195 gold or 3 perception. That'll probably swap out soon. May as well stack perception. It's always an interesting thing to stack, and I will take my main prize, which is this. Main part of this, you charge it up, takes 2 stamina, you send out that massive wave of attacks. Extremely, extremely powerful way of just dealing with massive sets of enemies. And so I'm going to want to go for as many weapon upgrades on it as possible, which is achievable through this, and this will also bring me through a time trial, which should let me afford both. Or it will at least guarantee that I afford it at least once, by way of me not affording it the first time. Fungal awareness is a bit annoying. Basically makes those little spiky mushroom boys go out of their way to mess with me. By go out of their way, I mean they just kind of do it. If they are near me, they will. As you see here, able to push out this massive damage from a very solid range. Though against these enemies and their specific attack pattern, it's good to get rid of them and then single down one so you can more easily avoid those attack patterns. So I'm just going to be doing that for the most part, is using this weapon from a range to try and deal with any enemies I encounter. Still not entirely sure which route would lead me to better items, but I'm just going to go with the far right, because it should lead me either to the quickest end, which is what I believe it does, and even if it doesn't, it just means maybe extra rewards. The reason why I somewhat want to leave as quickly as possible is I'm just aiming to get to the weapon upgrade at this point. And as I mentioned before, I am trying to do this with some amount of haste so that I can do multiple runs for this stream. There is a bit of an on-screen effect as you approach a poison cloud, as you saw there, which is good to know. And it does appear that this was just one of those extra routes for more drops. It's kind of a tough decision between which to target. I would probably target the Prophetess, but I can get a much chunkier shot on this, which may allow me to kill it instantly. Let's see. It does indeed, so that makes it very worthwhile. The Prophetess goes for a pretty easy attack pattern, and I can deal with it. Almost didn't deal with it well, but as I was saying, I can deal with it pretty well. From there, it allowed me to kind of just isolate an enemy and then deal with its after effects. Yeah, it's a Titan Skull. I just really dislike the Titan Skulls as an enemy. They're just kind of obnoxious to deal with. Thankfully this weapon is fairly powerful against them, but it still has to deal with their actual effects, which is the little spinning blades that tried to come at me just there, but couldn't manage to get to me. As you see with the living husks, I believe they're called, you're able to just very quickly deal with the ads they spawn. I believe it is living husk. Yeah, plague bringers. Don't know where I got living husk from. It sounded kind of cool, but that is just my own thoughts. And is not entirely true. Part of the reason why I really did want the Sacrificial Machina is it means I don't have to hold this out during the boss fight, and as you saw previously, it killed me during a boss fight, which wasn't the most pleasant thing. I am just going to take the healing there because I feel I need it more than anything else. I'm going to sneak away with the extra gold. The reason why I wouldn't have picked that up and then gone to grab the gold and then taken it for health is because of the fact that if you pick it up at all, you then lose it. I don't know if I can destroy those. I cannot. I may be able to destroy it with a basic swing, but I don't want to figure out now that I'm actually in the room. Very, very unfortunate that it managed to get a hit off just before it died, because that's going to cost us the 1 extra dex for this room. Got pretty lucky with the Plague Bringer not actually casting instantly and giving me a chance to react. Pretty bad dodge there. Got lucky and it did not punish me. There's a Titan Skull I'm going to murk as soon as possible. And there's also a Champion Prophetess, which is very unfortunate. As you saw there, I was backpedaling and didn't do so effectively, so I got hit by the Serpent once, and with this out I take double damage, and that double damage is quite a lot. And so because of that, I'm going to just use the Sacrificial Machina here because I'm going to auto-crit anyways. I'm going to try and make use of the shield a bit here as well, because it's just powerful to knock enemies back and then have a chance to combo them down. Gonna give me the free opportunity, I may as well take it. And yeah, it'll be a fairly clean room. Unfortunately, an unfortunate hit there, but I survived. Oh, that is painful actually. If I hadn't taken the hits that I did in there, I believe I would have gotten enough gold to just outright upgrade that. It honestly tempts me to then upgrade the Sacrificial Machina instead, because I wouldn't be taking on the 90 curse, and I would still have the guaranteed upgrade later on, but it does drastically limit the amount of damage I'll get. I think I'm just going to have to take it. My current curse is negligible, so I can kind of ignore it. I say negligible, it almost always costs me at least 1 hit during a run, which isn't negligible in any way, but I say negligible in comparison to what else is out there. Mostly things that limit the capabilities to, for example, have an extra relic, limits my ability to see the on-screen effects, and so on. And I can always remove this even if I get extra ones like this that don't do anything, because the Dark Flame does not matter to me. So what I'm going to try and do here is yeah, this is just a challenge room. So I'm going to trigger it with this, going to avoid the spike, and then I'm going to do a swing at it, which I believe breaks it. Yep. And I believe there's a second one in here. So I'm going to do that to both of them just to kind of set up the arena so that I don't have to deal with it later. Because those are the kind of things that you'll forget about and then take a bad hit to. And that's not what I want to do right now. Unfortunately, there's a Titan Skull in here, and I did not deal with the Plague Bringer very well. So I'm going to kind of suffer for a lack of as quality of a run as this could have been, because it'll take me quite a long time to clear this room. And obviously if I could have cleared it faster, I would have gotten additional drops. Still going to get 1100, which is going to be well more than 1100 thanks to my massive, massive perception at 22. But yeah. Just going to keep on moving forward. Healing room I am going to take use of. It's going to cost me a lot of curse, but it's going to bring me back to full HP, as well as heal me a bit for the excess there. And thanks to the added 2 healing effects style... Oh, I didn't even realize that that wasn't our actual healing room. Huh. I could, in this coming room, just add a bunch to my health pool for giving more curse, but at this point I don't want to be spending that much curse. I really hate gold puncture, and that is something I am going to be removing here, because it's kind of a nightmare if you don't want to spend that much gold. One curse. I don't believe I'm going to buy a bunch. Actually, it was 3,600, 3,800 or so, and then it'll be 4,900. One of these gives me 700 gold, so it's fine to take this much curse because it's going to save me. Yeah, I probably should have done that calculation before. It's going to save me gold in the long run for getting these upgrade rooms. And I'm going to have to pay some to go through a door, which then returns... It heals me 5%, which is then a bit more than 5%, and I'm paid back with gold. Thanks to this relic. And so while I'm at full health, that's kind of a fine curse, but fine is intolerable and not wanted more or less. Which obviously all curses you would prefer not to have, if at all. That was just a bad dodge. I dodged backwards instead of to the side, and got a bad hit. Which is, as I said, fungal awareness is negligible until it's not. Wish I had dealt with it more effectively, but I did not, and so I took a hit for it. I'm going to try and bait out both of the Plaguebringer's attacks, and then deal with at least one of them. Fortunately, I don't even manage to deal with one of them, so I'm going to have to backpedal a bit and try and fight them like that. Thankfully, the champion spawning its little adds leads to it taking a lot of damage thanks to my build, knocking them back into it as well as killing them, but yeah. 4,800, meaning I should be able to afford the next one as well, which makes the curse very much worthwhile. Otherwise, I would have had a likelihood that I would have needed to, what is it called? I would have needed to pay curse at another one of the weapon upgrades, which is significantly more than the amount of curse I paid, and this is the kind of shining moment here. I can use this weapon for a little bit on this fight, but I'm going to have to immediately swap off when he starts doing his attack patterns because of how much damage he can just output. Unfortunately, I messed up there and let him get basically scot-free. But yeah. I just gotta be conscious of the fact that if I have my weapon out, I'm going to take a larger amount of damage. Specifically those transition patterns like that, I can do a lot of very powerful work, but that is what I want to avoid. That will basically kill me outright if I have my weapon out. I'm gonna take this opportunity to basically kill him and then kill as much of the next phase as possible. Really drained my stamina there, which I didn't want to do, but I managed to regen it quick enough that I dealt with it. I'll once again try and burst down the next phase, and take a backseat on his damage for a bit while I just try and avoid him. When he starts backpedaling like that, I know I will have an opportunity to at least do some attacks, which is what I want. And there we go. A much, much cleaner fight than I would have expected. Well, honestly, I probably should expect that kind of thing with how powerful this weapon is, but with my own skill level, I don't expect it, I should say. 4 relics and a mace. I'm not going to be giving up the Sacrificial Machina for that. 66% healing. Less corruption right now, that's 5 less corruption per door. My build kind of is nothing at this point, just adds a lot of perception. I think I can give this up for the poison effect here, because I'm not doing any poison of any kind. Damage in darkness is very, very nice, and I think I will take it over the perception here, because I'm kind of phasing out of perception at this point. Increased greed kill time would be nice, but I think I'll prefer the health here. and then basically additional bonuses to healing, or a bunch of bulk healing. I think I am going to take the additions to healing, just because, though I don't have any opportunity to get outright healing, the shield does provide some healing by itself. The player in me kind of wishes that this staff could get upgrades, as in like 1% healing on kills and so forth, but I know why it doesn't, because it's so powerful. That effect is kind of fine by me. Basically, you just get a bit of corruption for opening gold chests, but they contain more gold. It's a bit of a nuisance. You end up taking a lot of gold, or a lot of corruption for nothing, but I do have some limits. This is the main pickup in my eyes, because 30% damage in darkness, I'm in darkness for the most part. So it's just kind of a benefit for me. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention and did not notice that there was a Titan skull here, which I would have dealt with immediately if I had known. I'm going to try to start putting some work into it. Thankfully it's not a champion, or else it would have been a lot worse for me. Those vines, or roots I guess you should call them, coming back very rapidly, and very much want my soul. I want to get rid of the Plaguebringer as quick as possible, and I did manage to, because then I can just deal with the Prophetess alone, and as you saw previously, you can just kind of chain combo her with a number of abilities, and the root will finish her. Since there's a Prophetess alone here, I was going to try and kill her outright, but I messed up my aim, and that cost me big time with a pretty massive hit there. Didn't actually know you could display the Titan skulls while they were doing that movement pattern there, which is kind of good to know. What I'm doing here you should never do, and that is specifically fighting at all when I don't need to have this staff out, because the massive amount of extra damage it can deal to me is not worth the laziness of having it out at the time, I should say. Did take some hits in this room, I believe, and that is unfortunate, but I will be able to get an upgrade here on this for purely gold, which is what I wanted. And as you can see, its damage is now very, very huge, and a major part of why I want that is because the spread effect on it will be very, very nice for the final boss. Having the capability to deal with as many of the elite Serpentists that he summons as possible is what I want, because those elites, if you don't kill them quick enough, will heal them, and they also just present another enemy in the room to deal with. That brazier's lit, which is unfortunate. I believe this may actually put it out. Yep, and that's what I want, because I have significantly higher damage in darkness. There is a Titan skull in the back that I did not notice. Success number 1. The mix of Prophetess here is going to be a nasty, nasty combo, as they're going to be able to speed up attacks while also doing their little stationary effects. Did actually manage to finish the Titan Skull there, which is what I wanted. Unfortunately, this Prophetess is presenting a bit of an issue, but I did manage to clear it, and I still get 1400 gold, which is massively increased by my perception. By massively, less so now, but still a sizable increase. Unfortunately, it's looking like I'm going to have to take this last one for Curse, which obviously I don't want to take Curse when I don't have to, but I am able to afford that, thankfully, which should provide one final massive damage increase before the final boss. More likely than not, this room will not give me enough to do it, so I could also route up that way, but my highest chance at a damage buff is just doing this. So then I have the option to view 2 relics as well, which I might be able to buy for the gold that I have. That was very bad positioning there. I didn't really pay enough attention to the dead roots, and it respawned and hit much quicker than I expected. Thankfully my positioning was fine enough that it didn't end up mattering, but the possibility was there, and as you've seen previously, the possibility often causes me to take damage. A curse that I would actually want right now is Bloodlust, because it would replace my gold gains with health gains, and as I mentioned before, I'm not really going to have much use for gold at this point, besides maybe just dealing with 1 or 2 relics more. I did try and bait the, this is entirely useless here by the way, but thankfully that healing is not. I did try and bait the little fungus there, or mushroom I should say, to explode out so that I would be able to more easily break it and then deal with the room, but it did its little attack which tracks onto any enemy, which just so happens to include, well, any entity I should say, which just happens to include entities as well. And said entities murked me after said fact. Just gonna kind of detonate this room to see where everything is. Leads me to this little hidden path back here with some extra drops, which I'm glad for. More is always nice when I have the time for it. This was a mistake. I'm gonna take a fair bit of damage there for basically no reason because I was lazy and kind of just ignored the fact that I would take damage from the poison. It was a very generous time there on the dodge, which I mean I'm grateful for. 8 Titan Skulls still. As I'll maintain from playing Destiny, I have a very strong dislike for Titans. I mean, like, I guess I'll take the extra curse. It'll give me an item and some gold. I believe it's 20 curse. 15. 15's fine. 15% critical damage. This is the kind of thing that I'm wanting right now. And I think I'm going to take it over the excess gold because I'm not going to get much. I have much less need for gold at this point. And I have a lot more need for any kind of critical damage, which is what that was. Or any kind of extra damage, which is what critical damage is. Huh. Didn't expect it to tag me there. That hit of damage is just kind of rude. Oops, sorry about that. Just gonna speed roll through this as much as possible then. Seeing as it's just a trap line. Probably should have done that from the start, but I did not. Thankfully I was just holding out my torch, as you should when exploring, so I didn't take any extra damage. I'm going to try and assassinate the Titan Skull, do indeed manage to do so, and then get rid of one of the Plague Bearers, or Plague Bringers, sorry. And bait out that attack, and then just deal with them. So yeah, I've been trying to improve the stream as I can. It'll obviously add some extra effects that I believe is visible in the final recording for YouTube, so if you don't prefer those, that is my bad, but it's kind of going to be necessary at some point, so I thought I should get it out of the way now. I'm gonna do this again and try and bait out an attack. Oh, I don't actually need to bait out an attack there. That's good to know. Can't quite kill the Serpentus by just doing that. I am going to try and bait out its attack, because it is being supercharged by the Prophetess, which is not what I want on an Elite's attack, which can do significant damage, and on the very hard difficulties, Elite's attack much, much faster. So it's just a multiplicative risk there. And there was no need to take it, so I didn't. That is the unfortunate part of the Shadow Brazier, which, I mean, Shadow Flame, if that's the only negative is that sometimes I miss a thing and take 30 damage, then I'm entirely fine with it because it takes the place of some of the much worse curses that I could get, and is basically just something I can ignore rather than deal with. And now this is the kind of room that I hate passionately because you're just kind of meant to deal with all of those projectiles at once, as on top of the enemies. Thankfully, I didn't actually know that you could dodge out of the way of the Titan Skull Slam, which somehow happened, but yeah. I do end up doing some excess healing there, which means that it would have been a decent idea to keep the excess healing gives gold, but once again, this is going to basically be my last purchase with gold, and so it doesn't ultimately matter. I have 2 relic options here. I'm not going to need to reroll anything besides the relics, so I may as well roll them. That was the one thing I didn't expect, is this kind of upgrade. And it does outweigh a basic weapon upgrade is the one issue here. Let me just double check my math here. 32, I'm going to take, well, 32 and then 100 till the final curse. So that's 132, yeah. If I take 90, what does that leave me with? Not enough. So I really shouldn't take any of these because I'm going to take 45 from this, which does not leave me enough room on top of the 90 to willingly take this, because the 5th curse, unless I get the plus 40 to all stats, it's not worthwhile in the slightest. The plus 40 is very, very powerful. Gives me a massive amount of health to deal with while coming to terms with the curse murdering you in the background. These really aren't the things that I'm looking for. I'll do my last reroll here because it doesn't really matter where I do it, and then kind of move on. Yep, nothing of need, so may as well continue so I can possibly buy a cursed upgrade. That also means then that I don't want to go to the weapon upgrade because I can't afford it in terms of curse. Huh. These recollections are unfortunate. So do I take the guaranteed stats, or do I just risk it and have the chance at getting a drop that will reduce curse? I am doing that math right? 135 versus 132 is indeed too great. It would be like a 4 curse reduction that I need, but I still don't remember for sure if the final curse can proc mid-fight, so I think I am just going to settle with just basic attributes. If you're a riskier man than I, then you would go with the weapon upgrade there and hope that you either had some corruption removal that you could do, which I don't, or that you got a weapon to drop that gave corruption removal. There was a non-zero chance that I could have somehow gotten enough gold to afford the upgrade there, but very close to 0, that chance. See, it's just healing. Cool. Self-validation. The worst thing to do. Actually, validating yourself is a good thing at times, but you don't want to over-evaluate yourself. Huh. Yeah, I should have swapped this out and kept the gold for excess healing relic. That would have been the smartest play. 2 Titan Skulls. Hopefully I could kill one. Did not manage to kill one. But I did manage to kill it before it summoned. I can kill that one before it summoned. So I'm happy. My patent dislike for, or if it wasn't already extremely noticeable, I have a very great dislike for the Titan Skulls. I am going to go kill this enemy, because it's pretty easy. Champion, doesn't really matter. Its fate is the same as the previous, as it gets womboed. And I shouldn't open you. So yeah, the curses do end up having slightly more effect than they would normally, and that they're actually costing me some benefits here, but ultimately I still appreciate them over some other far worse ones, and obviously I can't really choose which curses I have at this point. I could have played less risky with the amount of curse offerings I did, or blood offerings I should say, but I wouldn't be where I was if I did that. I could have explored down there to see if there's any extra items, but I did not do that. Dexterity and gold find. I'm just going to take the dexterity. It's very, very cheap, and I believe leaves me at 4440. Yeah. Which is enough for a cursed relic if one should pop up in this relic room. Sorry about that. I'm trying to drink some water, and my water is out. Which is a bit unfortunate for me. Kind of came in from the side there. Probably should have been better aware of what was in the room, but I kind of just went for what I could see because I was lazy. Laziness is going to be the ultimate killer in any kind of game, but I mean, it's just just kind of that thing that you're going to have to factor in is no matter what, you're going to make some mistakes, you're going to settle into habits, and my habits just happen to be kind of lazy. But yeah, ultimately this run has been going significantly better than I expected with the start. It started with very basic items and ended up with me getting this Witch's Crook, which is still, in my opinion, the strongest cursed item in the game, at least of the ones I've seen, which I've seen almost all of them, so it doesn't say much. That would have been very unfortunate if I had taken a hit from the vermin, because as of now I should be getting a bit of extra dex here for little effort. Gonna give that up for gold, just no need for the relic basically. My mortal enemy, the single statue that is out there to get me. The single vine that is out there to get me. I am going to murder. There was 3 vines. Well, I'm glad that I murdered that singularly, because otherwise I could have taken a risk there. I'm gonna go to the left just to see if there's anything. There was none. There was another one. Huh. This room is just a lot of traps. A lot of traps. It's a threshold there. But there may be something over here, so I am going to spend the time to go back there. Just on the hope that there is something. Looks like it's just a further room. And it's actually the end of the room here. So I wonder what would have been in that area down the way if this is just the end. Because it appears that it would have... It doesn't appear that there's a way to loop back here is the main question. So maybe there's just multiple ends for this room. Normally I don't see that in this kind of tile set. Bad positioning. Very bad positioning mixed with the double damage just made me take massive amount of hits there. I'm not all too sure if you can destroy the poison statues. I don't believe you can, but that's just an unfortunate turn of events there. Nothing of use here. Very unfortunate. So what I'm going to do here is look and see both of those were perception, but one in constitution. And so I'm going to just swap it out for something else here, basically. Because this is my final room before the boss. And so, what do I not really need? This is 1 increase there. It reduces my damage by... Actually, I just realized I could have the option to just keep that for the 10% damage. 8% damage increase, sorry. That 8% is actually making a solid difference. It's 8% versus, what is that, 800 health? 450 health, sorry? That's a solid debate there. I'm just going to take it over this, though. I believe that leaves me with 1,000 gold. I wasn't paying attention. Yep, so that's still only a 6% damage reduction, as well as a pretty solid health boost here. Going into the final boss, and I will be getting a curse here. Hoping it's nothing terrible. Creeping Gloom, I believe, is fine. Yep, entirely fine. Gives me bonus damage some of the time, which I don't care about, and releases a wave of darkness when I take damage. And so yeah, here's the build. Oil-Soaked Torch, Sacrificial Machina, and a shield. These two very powerful in themselves, but I'm mostly going to be using this when possible. This is the boss drop from the first boss of this dungeon. Ke'etiam, Witch's Crook. And then just some random relics here, kind of just adding in the only ones of real importance being 30% in darkness, 15 to critical, and 2% base damage for gold, which adds up to very little. Curses, not all that important as I've mentioned. And yeah, this will be a final boss for sure. I should have a very solid chance of dealing with this, so I'm a bit hopeful. I am going to get an Alpha Strike here on the boss, try and deal some amount of damage to him. I believe that's his leaping attack, yep. do that attack pattern and then try and get some hits. As you see there, when you actually manage to kill these serpents, he just gets weakened, takes a pretty massive amount of damage. As you see there, even though his claw was way, way in the back, he still has a massive, massive lunge after the fact. And so it's something you want to consider, is that even if you dodge the actual claw, just make sure you do end up dodging the entire attack. I got the weaken there, and I'll manage to finish it. And that boss in itself is just a very perfect showing of how powerful that boss drop is. The fact that I'm able to just so easily clear the boss with that amount of effort. Obviously there is some dodging involved, some knowledge of the mechanics, but it's just a very good showing of how powerful that is. As you see, I got some jade tokens as well as some crystal skulls, and that will be very hard for that temple. Is that 2 cursed items? But yeah, all that should be left is the final exploration for both temples, Death and Serpent and Death and Jaguar. As you saw previously, I had a very good run on Death and Jaguar, but I didn't manage to kill the boss fast enough and died to it, so forth. 31 and 339. Lots of stuff I could do with that. The main thing I am saving up for to unlock is, as you've seen, I have unlocked some cursed weapons. I believe I have unlocked a boss weapon in the Moonblade's weapon. It's just kind of something I enjoyed, so I unlocked it. But I'm ultimately going to be wanting to unlock the Witch's Staff here, which is what I'm saving up for, with the last of my, what do you call them, jade rings. I usually avoid these because it's just kind of annoying for me, but I guess I'll try one. It's making me think I probably shouldn't take Grace the Tempest, but I will just keep it anyways. And yeah, that was actually a no damage run of the boss there, which is nice to know. This is a very easy event that I probably should do, but I will try the Cursed Archer at least once, because it'll either be a pretty decent run or a pretty short run. And so yeah, thankfully the map removes any weapon options, because obviously I can't take any weapons, but I don't believe it affects drop rates at all, so weapons obviously won't drop, which is a positive thing. As you see here, whenever I shoot, I get Curse, so I need to actually plan my shots instead of doing what I just did. As you see there, the main effect of this bow is that it makes a little explosion if I get a perfect shot. And apparently the explosion hurts me. Yep. Damage to all characters. And that explosion does have a stun effect. That is a very, very powerful relic to just immediately get minus 30% to gold offering cost. But yeah. I am going to want one of the enemies to just kind of blow that stuff up, but yeah. I could just do the run that I've wanted to do for a while. It's one of the most boring runs in existence, but it's hilarious. It's really hilarious. It's technically a thing I could do. I'm not going to do it, but just be aware that that thought is in my mind, that if I ever really need it, I will make this a torch-only run. If it starts offering me fire upgrades, you best be aware that that is going to be happening. Because I believe the fire upgrades not only affect the base damage, but the fire tick as well. Let me just make sure my audio settings are still working. It appears so. Always good. Fortunately, I'm not able to insta-kill them, so I wonder what else I could possibly fight with at this point to deal with the remainder of their health. There's no possible weapon I could use right now because all the weapons are restricted. there's no hope for me at this point, you know. I would just have to spend the extra corruption to shoot again. So unfortunate. Oh, that was quaint. This would be interesting. It's not interesting enough, though, you know? There we go. That is indeed what I wanted, so I'm going to use blood for it. Cruise some gold fine with perception, but I believe this bow just kind of pretty consistently crits on the explosion, and that's just what I want. Relics, or an obscene amount of gold. And stat upgrade. It's kind of hard. It's actually really hard. I think I am going to go for the relics. Stats would be very nice right now and could help make up some damage, but relics are going to be what will carry me through this run. Dark Mysteries, I believe, just makes other curses not known, which could be fine. It's once again one of those curses that's fine until it's not. No, I will actually shoot the enemies, but I do just, if possible, want to get as much group damage on enemies when I can. Because as you see there, if I whiff, it is bad for me. Torch doesn't also use stamina, which is actually kind of... This weapon is pretty powerful, surprisingly. Fortunately, the dead wives just put themselves out, so it's like kind of killjoy there. So I am just going to shoot it twice this time, and then shoot you once. Obviously, you gotta murder him with a torch. I can't believe you've done this. I'm gonna just heal that up out of spite. Bonus damage to lightning attacks. It could happen. Almost certainly won't happen. But I'm just putting that thought there that there's zero feasible chance that it will. But what if it does? Why do I have a first curse again? Oh yeah, I took the healing effect. Why do I need healing during this run? It's nice. It'll hopefully matter. Minus 40% gold offering cost is kind of insane. I'm actually kind of curious if you could get that to 100%. I imagine with how this game works, it's probably a possibility. The enemies did decide to bunch up there, which I will make use of. And then I'll brutalize this one with a torch. Whenever possible, I'm just going to dip back because the burn is a lot of damage. And there we go. Oh, nope, you're alive. You're no longer alive. Yeah, the one kind of nice thing about these challenge runs is they are on the basic difficulty, which means I have to put very minimal amount of effort. By basic difficulty, I mean it's just a long exploration. So you still fight the 3 bosses and so forth, but you know, you don't have all of the crazy damage modifiers or possible chance at getting instantly killed as you do in some of the later difficulties. Didn't charge up my shot there, which cost me some corruption, and apparently the enemy wasn't in range, and then I just messed up everything, so it was entirely not worth spending the effort to aim, because then I lost more than I gained. And there's gold up here. I would smack it, but like, you know, barrels do barrel things and they explode. I'm just gonna try and do that because it should hit the dead wife. Cool. The other dead wife should blow herself up, yep. And I'll just kind of bait back and... Thought I had the bow out there. Did not have the bow out there. Interesting fact. Can I just... I can just fully charge, and then I ended up accidentally still shooting anyways. Yeah, being able to just... I was expecting me to have to meet a timer. I haven't used perfect shot weapons in so long. I was expecting a specific timing needed, but no, I can just fully charge it, so all the times that I've not done a perfect shot has been a waste. That is actually nice, because any parries I do will weaken enemies. Okay. What room is this? This is the third room, and I've still yet to get any dexterity bonuses, which does kind of just show off that I'm not actually doing that great during this run, just kind of making it through. You have to be very aware of the fact that if I let them get too close and take too long, then it will cause the explosion to hit me as well, costing me an amount of corruption, as well as obviously taking a hit. I've actually seen a couple of people do torch-only runs. I believe Lau mentioned that he had done one, and then I've just seen a clip of one, and boss fights are not fun. That is the least that can be said about that. It's just a very grindy process of working them down, but it is one of the better showings of skills because you're forced to dodge the boss the entire time. You can't really cop out on anything. And that just means your knowledge is better compared to otherwise, because you have to spend so much time learning the boss mechanics, their patterns, and so forth, to get anywhere close to those kinds of runs. May as well take some extra healing effects, seeing as I do have a healing effect currently. Extra perception. I'm just going to take over the lightning. Lightning is not going to do anything for me. I believe I can just sneak and grab this chest here. No claws either, unfortunately. And I can get the gold. Cool. I'm just not going to deal with them because the more enemies I have to fight, the more corruption I'm going to add. And corruption is just going to be the most costly thing here, being the theme of this run. I wonder. Yes. Yes, I can hit as many as possible with that. Will I? Oh, I was going to say, will I do it again? And the answer was yes, and then I missed. It was much less interesting. Excess healing. Perfect. I'm going to take it over... what? What do I take it over? I'm going to take it over the weekend. I don't like parrying myself, just because I'm not great at it, and so if I can avoid it and still get a pretty solid benefit in its place, then I may as well. Obviously, it's not going to be much gold, but I will be... or it's not going to be much health, but I will be healing in excess whenever I crit with this bow, and I crit with this bow every time I do a charge attack. And so I'll get like 14 gold, or so, every time, which is very worthwhile. Blood Priests are going to be the death of me during this run, now that I think about it. Did I just take a hit there? Wasn't quite paying attention, but I think I did. Wait, am I getting 10 corrupt? No, it's 1 corruption. I'm just blind. But yeah, as you see there, it just heals an enemy repeatedly. And that means that I suffer. The more I am forced to shoot an enemy, obviously, the more corruption I'm going to take, and I don't want to take more corruption. As you see there, the gold prices for these is so tiny. May as well take this, honestly. 882 gold for 15% healing rather than 10%. It's just going to generate some additional gold over the course of the run, as well as it's going to give me a dex boost. I finally managed to get a Grace of the Tempest proc. That is quite nice, I guess. Kind of showing that the 1,000 gold here probably would have been more worthwhile overall, but c'est la vie. Can I hit multiple with you? No, I can't. I haven't seen any on this first row, but that doesn't mean there aren't any. I'm hoping there are weapon upgrades so that I can upgrade the bow, but it's not looking like there will be. I was hoping you would get this. You didn't get this, and you hit me on just the edge of it. Cool. Love that. Do I have Dark Swift? Oh no, I'm just doing the bow dodge. I don't know how it took me this long to realize I've been doing the bow dodge. It's just like a slightly different dodge than normal, and it's just a bit annoying. As you see here, it's slightly less distance, but it does actually cost no stamina now that I'm looking at it, so that is actually really nice. But I'm still unhappy. I'm just in an unhappy mood after the very bad hit that I took there. But yeah. I'm somewhat surprised that I haven't raged as hard on this game while streaming. Obviously I've raged a bit internally, kinda got a bit negative about the run at times, but not as bad as I've raged before. And obviously it's nice not to rage, it means that I'm enjoying the game all the more. I should just be spamming dodge while I have the bow out when I can. I just go doot doot doot. Fortunately I don't regen stamina while that's happening, now that I notice. Relic. Bonus damage to fire attacks being very interesting, but I think I've moved past the phase of needing that. 9% when passing through a door could be okay. What would I give up? Probably the 10% gold offering cost. Doesn't really provide anything for my run. None of these really provide anything for me besides sustain, which, I mean, it works. But like 9% through the door, it doesn't really matter. 6% through the door also does not matter. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna count this as a wash. I was very tempted to take that bonus damage there, but I decided against it just because of the fact that I don't plan to keep as much gold, and often in cases I haven't been keeping as much gold in the end. There also doesn't appear to be any weapon upgrade, so it would have been fairly smart too, but I did not, so it's fine. I'm going to go after the Jaguar in the back first for once, because I can hit both. But yeah, boss fights are just going to be very costly in terms of corruption, because I'm just forced to keep using shots over and over again. I should have seen that coming, really. As you see there, as it caps out in range, it doesn't actually decide to attack me. I obviously can't aim assist him during that time, but yeah. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. Just going to backpedal very hard. And hope that I spot the Jaguar eventually. I honestly don't know why I'm spending time doing his mechanic for his boss drop. I mean, it's just a good idea to do in general, but I can't use the boss drop if I get it, because I don't believe drops are enabled at all on this, but yeah. I just don't like the Jaguars. So I have an excuse for it. Took a lot of corruption there, obviously having to do a bunch of hits there. But yeah, I get rid of the curse. Didn't really leave me a choice. Probably should have taken something to... Okay, that kind of wins the run there, but yeah. Could take 2 of these. Not going to, but just be aware that the thought was there. Level +1 on the main weapon, I believe, does nothing, so I'm just gonna take the Divine Favors. I don't have a main weapon per se, but you know, if you want to keep offering me things about them, it's fine. And yeah, it's hard because I do want to keep this 40% reduction. It's going to save me so much gold over the course of the run. I'm not sure if these stack, so I think I'm just going to take this over it, but that relic is kind of just GG for this run. Because as long as I can finish the fights fairly quickly, it puts a damper on any kind of losses I would normally suffer. This is just a good path. Gives me a lot of gold to work with for the following set, as well as just for the relic room in itself. Altar remains kind of annoying. I believe that's only on enemies that are on fire, but Still annoying because I'll hit them with my torch occasionally and then suffer for it, but yeah. We'll actually just go do this. Try and deal with as many as I can, and then clean up crew. I will start, well, now that I'm in this area, I am going to start having to deal with the champion enemies, obviously, and they're just much tankier. Much tankier enemies. And so yeah, for this run, a bit of a contrast to what I normally do, I'm going to be exploring a lot less extra areas just because fighting additional enemies now has a pretty big demerit of additional corruption. Though in fairness, I can now reduce corruption if I'm able to one-shot them. It's just the fact that I'm not currently able to one-shot them that makes me not want to do it. As you see there, Voltoronane's kind of pushing him to me. Why do you keep giving me these things? I am just going to take it over this one instead of taking multiple, but it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's the thing with this room, is if you're smart, you can just ignore the gold on the way down and then come back, or you could be like me and try and take the gold and risk getting hit, but yeah. I light up the room only for the fact that I'm lazy and don't want to have to pay attention to anything. So there is a range on my shots, which is good to know. As you see there, that's why it didn't matter if I lit up the room, because it was going to end itself anyways. I want to chain hits there as much as possible to save effectively on the corruption I'm going to have to spend. You see, over the course of that run, I only increased by a very little amount of corruption. I went in, I believe, around 28 and came out at 29, though ultimately I'm going to have to still pay for the doors. It's still saving a lot and basically balancing it out as a normal run. A good shout would be just to skip this, honestly, but because it's an early floor, I am going to actually do it, just because it presents me an easy way to get some gold, and more gold now would just be nice. I should be making better use of the traps. I am not, because I am lazy. Don't be like me. Be smart. Use traps. And win. I get a very nice amount of gold, a bit of bonus through perception, and yeah, I can move on. I believe that was a flawless room. Yep, so I get the extra dex as well. I actually don't think any of the barrels reach there, which is weird. Usually this room just solves itself. I believe I can break it open with the bow, or that actually breaks it open. Oh, cool. That's a chest. The chest is nice. No point in having shields, because I can't get shields. But the extra healing just means extra gold. And hey, extra gold's extra gold. Gonna go very excessive backpedal there because I don't want to deal with the risk of getting hit when I don't need to. As you saw there, it kind of pushed, or the enemy there, the Headless Guardian, pushed me much harder than I expected, so I didn't want to put any risk there taking a hit, and I didn't. This is honestly just something I'm going to need to take eventually. I think I'm going to have to give up one of these gold offering reductions for it, because it's just one of the only damage multipliers I'm going to get, and I'm going to have an especially large amount of gold leaving this floor. Just because of the challenge rooms. Challenge rooms become much more prevalent when you start removing other rooms from the floor pattern, and obviously weapon rooms are removed because I'm not allowed to have different weapons. I'm going to beat him up with the thing. Though unfortunately that makes them explode. My relic. This would be a nice thing to have on top of what I have, but it's not good enough. 6 dex and 30% in darkness is, however, good enough. Very much good enough. But what do I swap it for? It's a bit of a hard question. I'm almost always going to be in darkness except for Ta'amok. Do I need both heals at the same time? It would be nice. Definitely improves my sustain. I really don't want to give up the Worshipper's Cloak. All the same, though. I do think I'm going to have to give up this 5% healing. It's going to put a bit of a damper on part of my build, as well as only giving me an additional 3 decks, but I think it's worth it. So everything else is pretty pivotal. This just kind of breaks the run, and these all work together. This is the only thing I might consider, but as you can see, these are massive, massive reductions going on. Do I want to just give it up now for the rest of the run and suffer for it? That one's a bit painful, but it's ultimately going to be more worthwhile, I think, than the 30% offering, because it should give me... Well, actually, let's see. How much do I heal now? 13. How much do I heal with the relic? 14. So yeah, the damage is much more worth it, I think, here. With the two of them is, I guess, something I should consider, so I'll temporarily drop the 30% gold offering. And so with them together, it's 18 healing. So yeah, I think I am just going to take this over the 5% healing. It's not going to cost me all that much in the long run, but ultimately I do wish my build had just a bit more room for it. Obviously the 30% gold reduction isn't anywhere a part of my build, but it's going to help me shape my build better for when I can give up other parts later. Oh yeah, another challenge room. Gonna have to get rid of the Blood Priest first. Thanks to the upgrades I have, I could 3-shot it there, which is huge for me. Thankfully it decides to blow itself up there. Unfortunately, that slow-mo there at the end stopped me from dodging outwards, though I don't think it would have helped. I soak up a bunch of gold here, and yeah. My ultimate goal is to convert all of this gold into effective damage, either through other relics, such as the other darkness relics, or other relics that give me damage based on gold. And having access to a reduction in gold cost means that I will have more gold to then benefit them, even if I do end up having to buy them. I am going to be lazy, I believe there's maybe other gold in that room. May have gotten it all, I'm not all too sure. But yeah. As you see here, I'm still managing to maintain that, and I didn't even know there was a Blood Priest in this room. But it ended up fine. Unfortunately, he decided to spawn an ad repeatedly. I'm just going to go trigger this trap and then move. Fortunately got hit in, didn't get as much damage as I wanted. A lot of negatives there. I was trying to avoid having to use an extra bow shot because the enemy had spawned an extra ad than I expected. That's the kind of situation where having an extra stamina on your bar would be nice, just more flexibility there. But yeah, once again, that wouldn't fit into my build anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, this bow's kind of growing on me more than I expected. Even though I take corruption for everything I do, basically, I also have that nice little side dodge, which may actually come with a lot more bows than I think. But I just never use bows because their damage output is a bit lacking on top of their stamina cost. Outright for the nature of being a two-handed weapon. 5% of gold offerings isn't worth it at the time. Obviously, the ultimate thing I'm going to be aiming for in this run is getting more Crystal Skulls. Crystal Skulls will let me buy more blessings to use, and then upgrade the altars. The altars are what I want to upgrade, because when I do get the 50 Jade Rings, which I will eventually get, it will mean that I can, if I upgrade the heavy weapon altar, for example, I will have a much higher chance at getting the Witch's Staff, which is a heavy weapon that I want. Obviously my main goal with this save file is to 100% the game, which is just my normal playthrough save file, so that doesn't really say much, but yeah. I see a lot of people aiming to not unlock excessive things, basically. Like, if they don't want it, they won't unlock it, which is a fair decision. It helps prevent you from polluting the loot pool, or I should say the weapon altar pool, which will make your runs more consistent and to some more fun, but in my mind that kind of cheapens the game, because having limited resources is what makes runs unique, makes you have to play differently and get better at the game. Should have probably waited for that to crit, but I was being lazy and wanted to finish the room quickly. Finish those elites now, the elite lurkers, in 3 bow shots, which means I only net a total of -1 corruption, which is actually quite nice. I'm still not all too sure how I'm going to deal with the coming fight against the twins, but it should be fine. The twins, if you can't just quickly DPS them, they can get out of hand very quickly. Not going to go for the boss mechanic on these, because that requires parries, and as I mentioned, I suck at parries, and I don't want to do them. I'm actually surprised how far I can keep him away and just stop him from doing his pattern. This is much easier than expected because of that fact. Well, I am kind of trapped in this corner, which I don't want to be in when he does this. This boss fight is going to cost me a lot of corruption, just because of how many times I'm going to have to hit the enemy, but that's just how all boss fights are going to be. I'm going to actually back off of that hit, just because I don't want to risk him being too close and me taking the explosion, like I would have there. Yeah, this is the phase that I was mostly worrying about, because of how quickly he approaches you. You have so few opportunities to actually hit them. It feels like, obviously if I had better positioning I could probably hit him more, but I am just going to chain there and then start getting stamina. For this, he likes to lead off with one of those patterns, which is why I always like having stamina when his phase starts. Shame Interrupt potential is quite strong with that boss. Unfortunately, I'm going to get another curse here when this boss fight comes to an end, because I broke that curse threshold there. I don't know why it did that attack pattern there. I know why I didn't actually manage to dodge it, which was because of the fact that I had the bow out, shortened my dodge, but I'm fine with only taking those couple of hits. As you see here, the Blessing Serpent Bounty, which gives me 5 drops from the Champion of the Civ 2, is coming in very much clutch. Unfortunately, also, I can't reduce the corruption past what it was, so I was almost entirely wasted there. And most of these are just going to go into sacrifices here. Don't like wasting these, honestly. Thankfully, some of them were just pure stats, which means that they're not wasted and give me some actual benefit, but those corruption ones were entirely wasted. I can generate some really massive amounts of gold through these healing rooms, which makes it very tempting. I can get stats and still get 2 relics here, which is I think what I'm going to do. the main factor of this challenge run kind of got negated to an extent by way of just how it went. I got the greed kills remove corruption and it just kind of steamrolled from there, so I am going to spend 50 corruption to get a very, very large amount of gold, which is currently giving me a 32% damage boost from my one relic, which now makes any time where I see this relic exceed this kind of relic, basically. Because this is the lowest form of this relic, basically. It goes in 2, 4, and 6% per 1,000 gold. Well, actually no, it's only 20% damage because it's up to 10 times. But still, a very sizable increase for basically nothing. Though that does mean that the 2% is still technically not as worthwhile as the larger 30% from other effects. This room is a bit annoying. Usually it's a nice just add clear room, and it can be the same for this. I just need to actually deal with the Blood Priest. And yeah, now I should be pretty good because I can chain a number of multi-hits from explosions. As you see there, the explosions hitting multiple enemies basically just saves corruption by spreading the shot. I'm just going to play it ultra safe here and make sure I'm at a safe distance to deal with the enemy. For the number of bad shots that I've made this room, I've only gained about 8 corruption, which is very nice. I do see the Blood Priest spawn pool there, so I am going to deal with it as best I can. And it is an elite Blood Priest, which is what I didn't want to see, because that means it will spawn the elite enemies. I am going to hit the Jaguar there so that it will try and heal him, which is what I want because it means it heals instead of does despawn him. And thankfully I did get another in, so it should once again prioritize healing first and give me the chance to finish it. And I do. Those enemies are my biggest concern for this run, just because of the fact that elite lurkers have a fairly sizable health pool and they take a number of hits. And because of how this game registers summoned enemies, it means that I won't get the benefit for killing an enemy in terms of greed streak. So I won't get the 2 corruption reduction for it, and will instead just waste corruption. And that's one of those things. It is a very fair thing that they balanced it that way, because some of the healing based off of enemy kills could chain extremely out of control, and you could just always heal the full whenever you found a Blood Priest. But there are cases like this where I wish it did work entirely how it said. As you see there, I use so much stamina to do that, but it ends up being fairly alright. I did indeed wait until the enemy decided to rush so that I could try and hit both of them at once. I did that there with the lurker as well, but unfortunately the range was not enough. The excess healing is just going to turn into gold, and I can move forward. So I'm at the point right now where my excess gold is excessive, so to speak. As in, I need, because those relics cap out at 10k, I kind of just need something to spend this gold on. So I could just pivot away from the challenge room and just go to a normal room, or the question mark room instead, to try and get something else from it. Should be able to 3-shot them, and I do manage to. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to try and deal that little bit of extra damage with the full fire there. And I did try and get the trap to work, unfortunately did not. But yeah. Did not know the Blood Priest was there, so I'm going to just deal with it as quick as possible. With this challenge, inevitably you're going to be taking extra curses than you would like. Thankfully for this run, I managed to get a very, very solid build with a lot of things that didn't rely on me taking blood offerings, and so I've ultimately been pretty strong. I think at this point I do take this, because I'm going to be offered another relic as well. I'm going to take it over the excess healing one, I believe. It's a bit hard, because I could aim to have a massive amount of gold at the end, but what's the point in having massive amounts of gold? I do think I am just going to take it over this, because if any of the question mark rooms end up being an actual room with something I want to buy, I'm going to need the gold to buy it. And obviously I have 16,000 gold, and I'll probably make a bit more as I go through, but having the extra bit of wiggle room is important. I cannot fully avoid this room, and I do see a blood priest there, so I'm going to try and burst down the Jaguar and not engage the left side enemies, if at all possible. Unfortunately, the blood priest, I believe, is going to try and heal, and it failed to heal. But it did spawn an ad. So I'm going to group these two groups together to try and get some chain hits to save a bit of corruption overall. And just try and work down the blood priest, which I do manage to do. The other factor to consider there was that every time I killed an enemy I would also regen a stamina, which is another factor in why I baited them together, so I could chain off as many bow shots in a row as possible to try and burst down the enemy. The blood priest. As you're seeing now, I am one-shotting basic lurkers, and I believe two-shotting them. Yep, two-shotting the basic blood priest, which is a solid showing of how my damage has increased over the course of this run. Basically doubled since the start, which is a very nice thing now. Not going to worry about environment kills healing. I have no need for excess healing when my crits already heal me a very sizable amount, and I don't really need that healing yet. I will probably need that healing come boss time, but yeah. Jaguars are very easy to deal with long-range weapons like those, which may honestly be a factor in making me like those more, because of how much I just dislike Jaguars. Now that I see it, there's a blood priest there, so I'm going to bait into them to start the encounter and then kill them. Thankfully, with being able to two-shot them, I just quickly wipe the floor with the room, and I'm able to move on. There's no need for me to fight them if I don't have to. I'm just gonna go over here. I believe that's a champion face, or Headless Guardian, so I'm gonna come over here to try and get some extra out of it. And unfortunately I did not get I believe I didn't charge up that shot fully enough, so it did not kill the blood priest in 2 hits. Don't know how there's a blood priest still alive, but apparently there was somewhere. But I'm now just free to deal with the Headless Guardian. I did try and negate some of the maximum curse that I would gain, but it didn't work out. I also don't know why occasionally I just shoot out those little random shots. I am not intending to, I'm just holding down the mouse. Is there another group of ads on the left side up here? No, there's not, thankfully. But I believe there's one up ahead. So it's looking like this has just been a gold room, which is fine, I guess. Oh, no, it's a relic room. Oh boy, 45% in darkness. This is exactly what I saved this relic for. To swap it out for something more powerful. That's going to be a massive increase to my damage. I should be able to afford whatever relic's in here, and then I'll get the bonus stats at the end. And that should be very nice. One of the kind of quality of life things I do wish existed in this game was being able to sort these, because I kind of like putting my damage, my benefits together that match each other, so that towards the end where I show off what I have before going into a boss, it's much quicker. And it's easier for me to like mentally classify them together like that. Yeah, 244 damage against a healthy enemy is very nice. Tomahawk, I don't expect to be too bad actually, because I'll be able to keep my distance, and the only real threat would be the fireball attack, and that is entirely negated because of the fact I have a ranged weapon. With a ranged weapon, you can literally just break the fireballs, which saves me a lot of effort. If I shoot one out, then I can just get behind him and wail on him or back up much more safely. This is my last room to make use of these divine favors, so I'm going to use them as much as possible. This is entirely useless at this point, which is one of the quality of life things that I've seen a lot of people mention, and it is very important, is getting rid of these sort of things, because this is a waste of a slot. I would have hoped for literally anything besides that. I don't know if this counts as a heavy weapon. It's a two-handed weapon, but I don't think it does. I was hoping I would get something actually useful here, but it's not looking like it. I mean, perfect dodge restoring more stamina I may as well get. Over what, you would ask? Probably this, because I have one more room to deal with corruption, and that is it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose 200 health, but that is fine. I can replace that with something else if I somehow find something I want still, but it'll just be a nice benefit for the road. The champion blood priests need to cease their existence if at all possible. Did manage to clean that one up fairly well, which is nice, and I can then just deal with the room. I'm gonna go after the attributes rather than the unknown. Best case scenario, the unknown is like a well, the only best case scenario would be if it's a this does nothing for me. If it's a relic room, but all the other scenarios do really nothing for me. If it's a tribute room, I net neutral but put myself at a risk. If it's a gold room, I lose out on attributes or any kind of benefit, basically. And if it's a challenge room, same kind of thing. I'm just getting gold and no actual benefit. That hit there was very unfortunate. Thankfully, my healing is kind of absurd right now, that I'm able to heal it up very quickly on my own, but yeah. This kind of excess hits, though, is not what you want, though. May not quite look like I'm dodging at times, but that is just because the bow dodge is just a little nudge forward that still gives me iframes. This once again, one of those things people ask to be removed from this later part of the game because you have no use for it. I actually have a very sizable amount of dexterity, which probably contributes a lot of the damage that I have, which is fine by me. Just kind of an interesting thing to look at and make note of. I will be gaining a lot of corruption in this final floor because of the fact that I don't have any of the reduction effects that I did before, but doesn't ultimately matter all that much because I shouldn't end up getting another curse. Being able to one-shot the dead lives is a nice benefit, though. I wish I could one-shot the Jaguar as well, but I'll take what I can get for this final room. Unfortunately for my damage and darkness benefits here, I believe that Ta'amok, when he lights himself on fire, just generally removes those effects, and obviously when the arena lights up, those effects are removed, so it's a bit of a negative there. But for a majority of the time, it will be fine. The moment I saw healing there, I should have stopped trying to deal with the Jaguar, but I felt like I could outdamage, and I did end up managing to outdamage the enemy, which was fine by me. I am back up to full HP, which is as expected with this amount of damage and having 2 different healing effects for 15% damage healed. And all of my attacks effectively crit as long as I expend enough effort, so yeah, it's fine by me. Getting both of these doesn't matter, but I'm going to take both of them. Just kind of have that extra stats. And we'll go on through. Oh boy, this was a doozy of a run. It's obviously not with as many of the challenging modifiers, so it's a lot easier, but very powerful all the same, obviously. I have the Annihilation Bow of Madness, which is the core of this challenge, the Oil Soaked Torch, which did a lot more and is actually at 2+2, which is I think the highest I've gotten it in a while. But yeah, 75% in darkness, 15% healed on crits, effectively 20% base damage bonus, and then Perfect Dodge, restore more stamina. These two do nothing since your offering doesn't affect me, and Creeping Gloom just gives me a 10% bonus damage in light, because I prefer the dark anyways. So yeah, on to Ta'ama. Off to a great start there. We'll be able to see how much I heal, and I heal 40 per hit. That is very, very insane. Okay. Especially with the bow dodge, I'll be able to a bit better maneuver around things. As you see there, the arrow just over-pierces the fire. I should be going for parries here just to make this fight faster, but I'm not, because I'm lazy. When he does that, I'll have the opportunity to regain some of my stamina, and then just charge a shot. That was just bad aiming on my part there. But as you can see, my potential for healing is kind of insane at this time, so even if I start taking a number of bad hits, I'll be able to deal with it, because I can't go over the curse barrier at this point. So there's literally zero risk for me. Besides just running out of stamina by not playing as smart as I should. Especially with effectively free dodges, I should be fine. Though that's no excuse for starting to make a bunch of really bad plays, as I am currently. That is the one threat, as you see there. His leap attack is a bit hard to dodge out, because I believe I need 2 full dodges to get out of it, but it's manageable. He should be going into his phase transition here, which means I can just kind of lay into him in the meantime. And yeah, I'm back up to full health. Even after all those really, really bad hits, I'm entirely fine. When I heard that specific sound effect there, I probably should have just started firing immediately on him, because that specific attack animation means that he will only be doing that charge attack for the duration. Like that, he just kind of waltzes forward the entire time. Hoping I'll be able to get up to max health before the end, and I will. Not if I take a bad hit before the end, though. And I do. Unfortunate. I was hoping to end this run with full health, seeing as how powerful my healing was during it, but I do not. I'm just gonna spam dodge backwards to then get out of his range and kill him. And yeah, I did much better on that challenge than I thought. For the most part, well, the one time I've run that challenge before, it did not end well for me. In the slightest. And so I just didn't expect it to go well, but it went far better than I thought. So I'll be able to clear it pretty well, get a large number of crystal skulls from it, as well as get a decent bonus for it being the challenge run. 100 crystal skulls, 25k gold collected is very nice. And yeah, Jaguar dealt the most damage to me, but my healing was more than enough to deal with it. Rooms, 50 skulls. So I'm at 489, which puts me about halfway away from restoring the last altar, which is probably what I'm aiming to do. You can also upgrade Divine Favors, which would probably be a smart thing to do. Gives you more rerolls to have access to, more things to do. That slight bit more control over your run. But yeah, I think that's going to have to be it for this stream. It's very late where I am, and I do need to do some more work before I go to sleep. As well as I have classes in the morning. So yeah, thank you very much for coming out to the stream, anyone who did, to the YouTube viewers, thank you for watching up to this point if you did, and to everyone watching, I hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your night, whatever it is, my best wishes to you. Hope you have a blast. Goodbye.